Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I am so glad you are here with us today because we are about to open a file that I think for most of us, and I definitely include myself, has been sitting on a dusty shelf in the back of our minds labeled case closed for, what, over a decade?
At least, yeah.
You're going back to the world of Harry Potter, but, and I want to be incredibly clear about this right from the jump, we are not here to relitigate the House Cup.
No.
We aren't here to debate whether Ron and Hermione were a good match. We aren't doing a plot recap. We are doing something that feels a little bit more like magical forensics.
That is the perfect way to frame it. I really like that term, magical forensics, because we're essentially dusting for fingerprints on a crime scene, or a death scene, rather, that millions of people have watched or read.
Billions, probably.
Billions, yeah. But almost everyone missed the most critical piece of evidence because they were too busy crying their eyes out.
Guilty is charged. It is genuinely hard not to get emotional with this source material. I mean, it's the climax of a series that defined a lot of our childhoods.
Yeah.
But today, we are looking at a specific document, a really fascinating piece of analysis titled The Alchemical Weight of Snape's Final Breath.
It's a great title.
It is a great title. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first saw that in our stack of research for the week, I braced myself for poetry. I thought, okay, here we go. This is going to be a metaphorical deep dive into his unrequited love, the dough, the whole always thing.
And you couldn't be more wrong.
Completely wrong. It's not poetry, it's mechanics. It's a granular, almost scientific look at the rules of dying in the wizarding world. The author is asking us to look at the internal logic of the magic system, specifically that transition between life and death, and use that logic to solve a mystery that haunts the very end of the series.
It's a mystery that is hiding in plain sight. It's one of those things where once you hear the theory, you can never watch the movie or read the book the same way. It fundamentally changes the texture of the ending.
How so?
Well, it takes a scene that feels, purely spiritual and emotional, and it turns it into something physical, something almost biological.
Okay, so before we get into the heavy stuff, and it does get heavy, let's set the stage for you. We need to transport ourselves back to the Battle of Hogwarts, the climax.
Right, the absolute end of the line.
The castle is crumbling, giants are swinging clubs, spiders are swarming. It is absolute chaos. And in the middle of this war zone, Harry Potter realizes what he has to do. He sees the memories in the pensive, he realizes he's a Horcrux, and he has to walk into the Forbidden Forest to let Voldemort kill.
The ultimate walk of sacrifice. It's the hero's journey reaching its absolute terminus. It's the whole point of the 7 books, really.
Right, and to help him do this, he pulls out the Resurrection Stone. This is one of the Deathly Hallows. He turns it over in his hand 3 times, and he summons what I call his comfort.
The spectral support system, people who are going to walk him to his death, his spiritual bodyguards.
Exactly. And let's look at the roll call, because the source material we're looking at makes a very big deal about who specifically shows up. It's not a random assortment of people Harry knew.
Not at all. It's very curated.
We have James Potter, we have Lily Potter, we have Sirius Black, and we have Remus Lupin. It's the Marauders plus Mom. It is this perfect protective circle of guardians.
It's the family he never got to have. It's all the parental figures who defined his life, all returning in his final moments. It's a beautiful, heart-wrenching image.
It is. But there is a glaring, massive omission in that lineup, a gap in the circle. And that is exactly what we are investigating today.
Where was Severus Snape?
Where was Severus Snape?
That is the question that launches this entire theory. Because if you just look at the narrative arc, strictly from a story perspective, Snape had just given Harry the memories. Harry finally understood the truth, that Snape was on his side, that Snape loved his mother, that Snape had been protecting him all along.
In that specific moment, you could argue Snape is the most important figure in Harry's recent history. The revelation of Snape's loyalty is, an hour old? It's brand new information.
It's fresh. And it's world-shattering for him. And yet, when he calls for comfort, silence, Snape isn't there.
Now, the standard answer, and our source quotes this directly, is usually emotional. People say, well, Harry didn't like Snape, or it's too awkward. The source acknowledges this view. I know Harry Potter didn't like Snape at all.
Right, and that's a valid narrative interpretation on the surface. Right. If you're walking to your death, do you really want the guy who bullied you in potions class for 6 years walking beside you? Probably not.
It creates friction in a scene that's supposed to be about peace. It's supposed to be a warm hug before the end. Having Snape there would be complicated.
Very complicated. So we tend to think, well, Harry just didn't want him. Or maybe Snape didn't want to be there.
Sure. Don't summon me, Potter. It fits his character perfectly. I can hear it in my head.
Exactly.
But our source pivots away from that immediately. And this is what I love about this deep dive. The author essentially says, forget the feelings, look at the body.
It asks us to put aside the soap opera of their relationship and look at the physics of it. The central argument here is that even if Harry wanted Snape, even if Harry was begging for it, or even if the Resurrection Stone is an objective magical tool that just summons those who died for the user, regardless of preference.
Which is an interesting idea in itself.
It is. But even if all that were true, Snape physically, metaphysically could not make...
Because of how he died.
Exactly, because of how he died. We are investigating the magical mechanics of death. The theory is that the cause of death, the literal weapon, and the biological process influences the immediate aftermath for the soul.
That is a heavy concept. It implies that the afterlife, or maybe the lobby to the afterlife, has rules that don't care about your redemption arc.
Nope.
Doesn't care if you're a hero. It doesn't care if you just save the world. It cares about toxicology.
It cares about the state of the vessel when the soul departs. It cares about the biology of the moment.
So let's break this down. The source contrasts two groups. Group A is the ghost group that showed up.
Yeah.
James, Lily, Sirius, Lupin.
Right.
The source argues that these four share a commonality in their death mechanics that makes them distinct from Snape.
Correct. Let's look at James and Lily first. We know exactly how they died. Voldemort walked into the nursery in Godric's Hollow, Green Light, Avada Kedavra, the killing curse.
Let's pause on the killing curse for a sec. Because in the movies, it's just a green laser beam. It looks like a blaster shot from Star Wars. But mechanically, in the lore, what is it actually doing to a human being?
That's a crucial distinction to make. The killing curse is not a physical weapon in the traditional sense. It causes no damage to the body. When the police or the muggles find the riddles in the very beginning they are baffled because the bodies are
Right. There's no wound, no poison, no heart attack, no strangulation. They just stop.
Just stop. It's like someone flipped a switch on the back of a toy. The spell is designed to sever the soul from the body instantly. It ejects the pilot. The body is left intact, but the animating force is completely removed in a nanosecond.
So for James and Lily, there was no dying process. There was life, and then there was death. A binary switch, on, then off.
Exactly. 0 seconds of processing time, no pain, theoretic. Just an instant transition from the physical plane to the spiritual plane. They didn't have to lie there and feel their organs shutting down.
It was just done. Okay.
What about
Sirius? Because he didn't get hit with the killing curse in the book, right? That was a movie thing.
Sirius is an interesting case because in the book and the movie, it's slightly different, but the result for our purposes is the same. In the book, he's hit by a spell from Bellatrix, and he falls through the veil in the Department of Mystery.
The veil. Okay, so that's a literal barrier, an archway between the land of the living and the land of the dead. He doesn't die on the floor. He passes through a doorway.
He passes through a doorway, so he is instantly removed from our reality.
Instantly. 1 second he is fighting Bellatrix, the next second he is gone. His body doesn't even remain. It's an immediate total translation of state. He is here, and then he is fully there.
Another clean break, no processing time.
And Lupin. And Tonks, for that matter, though she doesn't appear.
We don't see Lupin die on the page, but he falls in the Battle of Hogwarts. In these high-level wizard duels, especially against Death Eaters like Antonin Dolohov, the lethal blows are almost always the killing curse or high-impact curses that end the fight instantly.
It's the most efficient way.
It is. We don't hear about Lupin lingering in the hospital wing for 3 hours. He's found dead. The strong implication is an instantaneous end.
So the common denominator for the Comfort Team Group A is speed and cleanliness. They were hit with magic, the lights went out, and their souls were popped loose. They were free.
Free is the right word. They're tethered to the biological world. It's like unplugging a computer from the wall versus waiting for the battery to drain out.
That is a great analogy. Okay, so now we look at the outlier. We look at Severus Snape. The source is very specific here. It says, Snape was killed by Voldemort, not with the killing curse, but with the help of the bite and poisoning with Nagini's fangs.
Not with the killing curse.
Okay,
We need to underline that phrase. Voldemort, the greatest dark wizard of the age, the man who throws around Avada Kedavra like it's confetti.
It's his calling card.
It is, and he chose not to use it on Snape.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
I mean, the lore reason is usually about the Elder Wand, right? He didn't want to use the wand against its supposed master.
Yeah, that's the strategic reason, yes. He thought the wand might backfire or refuse to kill its master, so he outsourced the murder. He used a tool that wasn't a wand. He used Nagini.
But the consequence of that choice is what matters for our theory. Because by using Nagini, he moved the death from the realm of magical soul ejection to biological animal attack.
Precisely. He turned a magical execution into a physical mauling, and that changes everything.
The source focuses heavily on the word poison.
Yeah.
It paints a very visceral picture. This wasn't magic. This was teeth. This was venom.
Think about what happens when a giant snake, Nagini is huge, basically a python with venom, bites you in the neck. It's massive trauma. It's torn muscle. It's a jugular wound. But then the venom enters the bloodstream.
And this is where the alchemical weight starts to come in, right?
Yeah.
The source talks about the time variable. It says, quote, "It took Snape much longer to die."
Time is the critical variable here. With the killing curse, the time is 0. With the snake bite, the time is, well, feels like we watch him die. Harry watches him die.
Right. He's on the floor of the shrieking shack, bleeding out. He has time to give up the memories. He has time to speak. He looks at Harry's eyes. This is a process. This isn't a switch flip.
It's a process. The source calls it much longer. And in that duration, what is happening to the soul? If the killing curse pops the soul out like a piece of toast from a toast.
What is the venom doing?
The venom is a chemical anchor. It's shutting down the body system by system. The heart is racing, then slowing. The lungs are filling with fluid or paralyzing. The brain is firing panic signals. The soul isn't being released. It's being evicted slowly as the house burns down around it.
That is a terrifying image. Being evicted as the house burns down.
It implies a struggle. The body fights death. Biology wants to live. So for those minutes, Snape's spirit is locked in a cage match with his own failing biology. It is entangled. It's messy.
And the theory suggests that this entanglement doesn't just end the second the heart stops. It creates a, let's call it a refractory period, a cool down period.
It's exactly a cool down. If you have just spent 10 minutes in agonizing, physical, venom-induced death throes, your soul might be in a state of shock. It might be heavy.
Which brings us to the title of the source, which I think is just brilliant. The alchemical weight of Snape's final breath. I want to really dig into this word, alchem.
It's a very deliberate word choice. It elevates the discussion from simple biology to metaphysics.
Usually when we think alchemy in Harry Potter, we think Nicholas Flamel, the Philosopher's Stone, turning lead into gold, the elixir of life. It's about perfection, right? It's about reaching a higher state.
Fundamentally, yes. Alchemy is about transformation. That's the core stuff, taking a base material and putting it through a rigorous process, change its state into something divine or perfect.
So here the base material is a living human being, and the higher state is the spirit or the afterlife.
Right. And death is the ultimate alchemical trance. You are changing states of matter or state. Now look at the catalyst. The killing curse is the perfect catalyst. It's the Philosopher's Stone of death. It transforms you instantly, cleanly, without residue. It turns the lead of the body into the gold of the spirit in a flash.
It's the clean break we keep talking about.
It's surgical, but Nagini's venom, that's different.
Nagini's venom is dirty alchemy.
Nagini's venom is a dirty catalyst. It's a messy experiment. It's a chemical reaction that involves sludge and pain and resistance. It doesn't produce gold instantly. It leaves the soul feeling heavy, lead-footed.
The alchemical weight. So the idea is that because the transformation from life to death was so physically brutal and chemical, the soul carries the weight of that body for a period of time after death.
Yeah, the spirit is anchored. It's too heavy to fly. It's too heavy to answer the summons of the resurrection.
Imagine Harry in the forest. He turns the stone, it sends out a signal. Calling James, calling Lily, calling Sirius, calling Lupin. They answer because they are light. They're floating. They've had years in some cases to adjust. Then it calls Snape.
And the signal connects, maybe. But Snape is stuck, weighed down by the venom. He's still shedding the physical trauma of the last hour. He physically cannot rise occasion.
That changes the scene completely. It's not that he refused to come. It's not that the stone filtered him out. It's that he was essentially in spiritual critical care.
He was in the recovery room, and Harry didn't have time to wait.
The timeline matters here too, doesn't it? The source mentions how quickly this all happens.
It's incredibly compressed. Harry catches the tear memory. He runs to the headmaster's office. He goes into the pensive. He watches the montage of Snape's life, which takes a minute, 15.
Maybe, something like that. Then he walks straight to the...
So Snape has been dead for maybe 45 minutes, an hour at the absolute.
Less, probably. The body in the shrieking shack is still warm. The blood hasn't even dried.
Compare that to James and Lily. They've been dead for 17 years. They have had nearly 2 decades to process their to exist in the afterlife, to become expert.
They were veterans of the other side. They know the drill.
Right. Even Sirius has been dead for 2 years at this point. Lupin has arguably been dead for a few hours, but again, instant death. He crossed over clean. Snape is the freshest, messiest casualty on.
It's like asking someone to run a marathon 5 minutes after they've been pulled out of a car wreck.
That's the analogy. Why didn't you show up to the party?
Well, I was currently bleeding out metaphysically. It just wasn't possible.
Let's talk about the breath part of the title. Snape's final. The source mentions this specifically, and it's so evocative.
The breath is the archetype of life, the pneuma. In many, many cultures, the soul is believed to leave the body with the last breath.
But with a throat wound from a giant snake.
With a throat wound and a neurotoxin that is probably paralyzing the respiratory system, that last breath is a war. It is a gurgle. It is a desperate gasp for air that isn't coming.
It's not the peaceful passing away we see in movies where the eyes slowly close and someone sighs. No, it is a violent rupture, and that violence leaves a mark. The source implies that the sheer difficulty of that final exhale is what locked the door behind him. He couldn't just turn around and come back through the resurrection stone because he had barely made it through the door in the first place.
This theory really leans into the hard magic side of Harry Potter. I think sometimes we treat the magic in this world as very whimsical. You know, it works because love. It works because friendship.
And Rowling definitely writes with those themes. Love is the most powerful magic, etc. But underneath the themes, there is a system. There are rules. You can't apparate inside Hogwarts. You need a wand for most spells. Potions require exact measurements and ingredients.
And this theory suggests that death also has exact measurement.
It validates the idea that magic is a force of nature, not just a plot device. Gravity doesn't care if you're a good person. Fall, you fall. The mechanics of death don't care if you redeemed yourself. If you die by snake venom, you deal with the consequence.
It's refreshingly clinical. And the source writer admits this is a new way of thinking. They say, quote, I don't know how many people have thought of this.
I'd wager very few.
Yeah.
Because we are trained as readers and viewers to look for character motivation, we ask, what was Harry feeling? What would Snape have wanted? We don't usually ask, what was the blood venom concentration in Snape's capillaries?
But when you do ask that question, it answers the glaring omission perfectly.
It solves the plot hole without requiring Harry to be petty. Because let's be honest, Harry had just named his son Albus Severus. Or he would eventually.
He would, yeah.
He clearly forgave him. He viewed him as a hero. So the Harry hated him argument falls apart if you look at the epilogue.
That's a great point. Harry described Snape to his own son as the bravest man he ever knew. So in that moment in the forest, Harry's heart was probably open to Snape. He just found out this man sacrificed everything for him.
Which makes his absence even more tragic. Harry was calling him on some level. The stone was trying to work, but the connection failed on the other end.
The subscriber you are trying to reach is currently out of service area.
The subscriber is currently undergoing alchemical stabilization. Please try again.
That raises a fascinating hypothetical. If Harry had waited, let's say he hid in the forest for 3 days, or if the battle had lasted a week, would Snape have eventually appeared?
According to this theory, I think so, yes. Once the weight burns off, once the soul separates fully from the trauma of the body. If Harry used the stone a month later, I guarantee...
Probably looking annoyed, but he shows up.
Oh, absolutely. Typical Snape. Potter, why are you disturbing my eternal rest?
10 points from Gryffindor for waking me up.
Exactly.
But he couldn't do it in that hour. That specific hour was the blackout zone.
And that blackout zone creates a profound sense of isolation for even in death. Think about it. He lived his life as a double agent, isolated, misunderstood. Hated by both sides he was supposedly working.
He dies alone in the shrieking Shackwell, with Harry watching, but essentially alone in his pain.
And then, in the moment of ultimate reunion where everyone is coming together to support Harry, he is still isolated. He is still on the outside looking in.
He is excluded by the very nature of his sacrifice. The messy, painful death he endured for the cause is the very thing that prevents him from being part of the magical curtain call.
He doesn't get to be part of the victory lap. He doesn't get the group hug. He stays in the dark.
The source really emphasizes the help of the bite. It's interesting phrasing. Killed by Voldemort with the help of the bite.
It frames the snake as an accomplice or a tool. But Nagini is also a Horcrux. Forget that. She contains a piece of Voldemort's soul.
Does that add another layer? I was wondering about that, being killed by a Horcrux.
It might. The source focuses on the poison, but if we want to layer on more magic theory, being killed by a vessel of dark soul magic might leave a spiritual residue that is harder to shake off than a bell.
So it's not just a biological venom, it's a magical venom as well.
It could be. It's like a spiritual infection on top.
So Snape is dealing with biological venom that anchors his body A&D's spiritual contamination from Voldemort's soul fret.
Talk about a heavy burden. No wonder he couldn't manifest. He was probably being held down by dark magic anchors, as well as, a failing circuit.
While James and Lily are light as feathers.
Exact. Pure souls, clean deaths, instant release. The contrast is stark. Couldn't be more black.
I want to circle back to the listener for a moment. Why does this matter? We're talking about a fictional character's fictional death mechanic, but why does this theory feel so important to the understanding of the story?
Because it grounds the fantasy. It reminds us that violence in this world has consequence. We get so used to characters waving wands, falling over, it becomes sterile after. This theory reminds us that Snape was mauled, brutal. It brings the horror back into...
It makes the sacrifice feel real. It's not just a plot. It's a physical reality that cost him everything, including his chance to say goodbye or to be there for Harry in that final moment.
It also deepens our empathy for him. If you thought his death was sad before, think about it now. He died in agony, and that agony followed him into the dark a while. He carried that weight, so Harry...
He carried the weight. That really resonates with the title, The Alchemical Weight.
He was the lead that allowed Harry to be the gold.
Wow, that is a bar. He was the lead that allowed Harry to be the gold.
That's the alchemy. Snape is the base material, the dark, heavy, unpleasant substance that is necessary for the train. Without Snape's heavy, messy death, Harry doesn't get the memory.
He doesn't go to the forest.
He doesn't go to the forest. He doesn't defeat Voldemort. Snape's painful, slow death, the final.
So Snape's absence in the ghost circle isn't a bug. It's a feature. It represents his role. He is the foundation buried in the earth, while the others are the structure rising into the sky.
He is the root. Dirty, dark, essential, but unseen in the final picture.
This source material, it's only a few paragraphs, really, when you boil it down, but it opens up this massive philosophical discussion.
That's the sign of a good theory. It takes a small detail, Snape wasn't there, and uses it to illuminate the entire magic system and the core themes of the work.
And it completely dismantles the Harry is petty argument, which I think is a relief for a lot of fans. We want Harry to be the bigger man at the end of his journey.
And he was. The magic just let him down. Or rather, the magic followed its own harsh...
It's a tragedy of timing.
A tragedy of physics.
Or
a metaphor.
Before we wrap up, I want to pose a question that the source hints at but doesn't fully explore. We've talked about where Snape wasn't. He wasn't in the forest with Harry. But where was...
That's the provocative closing thought, isn't it?
It is. If the weight holds you back, where does it hold you? Is he in a limbo? Is he in a darker place?
In the Harry Potter universe, we have the concept of Limbo King's Cross Station, where Harry goes after Voldemort, hits him with the killing curse.
Right. It's white, clean, bright. He has a nice chat with Dumbledore.
But Harry got there via the killing curse, a clean death.
So his limbo was a bright train state.
What does the limbo of a poison victim look like? Is it dark? Is it the shrieking shack, endlessly repeating his last moments? Is it a tunnel filled with pain and vision?
If the method of death shapes the transition, Snape's transition might have been a nightmare.
While Harry was having a calm, philosophical chat with Dumbledore in a bright white King's Cross, Snape might have been fighting his way through a metaphysical swamp, still covered in the mud and venom of...
Yet, he made it through. We know he finds peace eventually. The portrait in the headmaster's office, sleep. Dumbledore's does too, implies rest.
He eventually finds rest, but he had to walk the hard road to get there.
He never took the shortcut. Not once.
Never.
Well, that adds a whole new layer of gravity to the ending of Deathly Hallows. I don't think I'll be able to watch that Resurrection Stone scene again without looking for the empty space where Snape should be.
And realizing that empty space is heavy. It has weight.
The alchemical weight of Snape's final breath. A fascinating deep dive into magical forensics. Thank you so much for walking us through this investigation.
My pleasure. It's always good to check the evidence, even in a magical world.
And to you, the listener, next time you read a fantasy book or watch a movie, look at the mechanic. Ask yourself, what are the rules here? You might find a whole new story hiding underneath the one you thought you'd.
Keep digging.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.